Okay, so very good morning.
Good morning, sir.
Good morning, sir.
Okay, so let me share my screen.
Good morning, sir.
Morning. Okay. So is my screen visible?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay, great. So in last session, we are discussing about the DOM manipulation. So we have explored its theoretical concept, that exactly what we have to do in DOM manipulation. Okay, so using this DOM manipulation concept, you can do these following operations. Okay, so we can add new HTML tags into the DOM. We can remove them. We can change their styles. We can also read the content of HTML elements. Okay, so these are the all operations which we can do on our HTML elements. But we have to understand one fact, that for JavaScript, everything is an object. So if you are having your HTML tag, so then tag is also will be an object for JavaScript. Okay, so for JavaScript, everything is an object. So this means HTML tag, or you can say HTML element, is also an object. So before performing any operations on the HTML tags, you have to get the object of that tag. Okay, so suppose if you want to add a new element, or if you want to remove that HTML element, or let's say if you want to change the style, or if you want to read the content, or if you want to change the content of any HTML element, we need their object. Okay, so this means so this means we need an object of HTML tag. We need an object of HTML tag in JavaScript in order to manipulate them. Okay, because these are the all operations which we are going to perform on HTML tags. Okay, so these are the 7 operations which we are going to perform on any HTML tag. So in order to perform these all the operations, we need the tag. This means we need object of that tag. Let's say in your HTML, you are having one paragraph tag. Okay, so in your HTML, you are having one paragraph tag. And if you want to write something inside this paragraph using JavaScript, someone having their mic, someone is at railway station. Okay. So let's say if you are having one paragraph element, and in this paragraph element, one text is written, that is hello world. Okay, so let's say in your JavaScript, you want to manipulate this paragraph tag. So in order to manipulate this paragraph tag, we need its object. Okay, so let's say if you are having one anchor tag, and in this anchor tag you are having one link like visit YouTube, and we are closing this anchor tag. Okay, and if you want to do something with this anchor tag in your JavaScript, so you need the object of this anchor tag. Okay, so for the JavaScript, everything is an object. So this means to perform all these 7 operations, we need object of that tag. So is it clear to all of you? Yes or
Yes,
no?
sir. Yes, sir.
Sir.
Okay. So let's do these operations practically, that how exactly we are able to get the object of any HTML tag. So this is how we are going to manipulate our DOM, because this entire DOM is also being referred by an object. So each element of the DOM will also be referred by some objects. So let's create one folder. We have this dom.txt file. Okay, so I'm writing one script tag, and inside this script tag, I want to have, okay, so I want to have an object of any HTML element. For example, we are having one paragraph, and in this paragraph, I'm writing one text, which is this is dummy para. Okay, so first operation, what I want to do is I want to get the content of this paragraph. Okay, I want to read the data which is being written inside this paragraph tag with the help of JavaScript. So in order to do that, we need an object of the paragraph tag. Okay, but is it uh, is it possible that in every web page we will have only a single paragraph? Is it so?
No. No.
No.
So
Okay. So now how we are going to identify a single paragraph?
By ID or class.
Yes,
ID.
exactly. So we have to assign this paragraph a ID so that we can recognize this paragraph uniquely, so that your JavaScript also can recognize this paragraph uniquely. So I'm giving this paragraph an ID that is para. Now, who will be responsible to give us an object of this paragraph tag? So we will ask our document object, because this document object will refer to the entire DOM. Okay, so this document object will refer to this entire DOM, and we will ask this document object to give an object of any HTML tag. Okay, so how this is possible? So on this document object, we would call this method or a function whose name is get element by ID. So by reading the name of function, all the things are getting cleared. So the function name is get element by ID. So element is what? An HTML tag. Okay, so we have to pass an ID. Let's say I'm passing that ID as para, and this function is going to return an object of that HTML element. Okay, so let's assign that object into a variable, for example obj. So this obj is an object which is referring to our paragraph element. Why I'm saying that this obj is a paragraph element? Because we have passed the ID of that paragraph element. Okay, so this function is going to search for the mentioned ID in your HTML document. If we are having a matching element, then it will return us an object. Okay, but if we have passed a ID which is not present in your HTML document, then it will return a value which is undefined. Okay, so this means you can pass your id, and if you want to get an object of your html element by id, so we will call this function which is get element by id. So this get element by id will return, so this function return object of the html element by matching id, not only the content which is written inside that HTML element. Okay, so it will return the whole HTML element as an object. So this complete paragraph tag. Okay, so this complete paragraph tag is assigned into the variable whose name is obj. Okay, so now let's console log it. So I'm logging this value on the console. Now let's open this. So you can see on the web page body, we are having this paragraph text which is written. And let me open that console area. So you can see inside the console, we are having this complete paragraph which we got in the variable obj. Okay, so this function whose name is get element by id is returning the complete HTML elements object. Okay, now what if we want to get only the text which is written inside that HTML element? So for that purpose, we need an object of that element, and on that object, we can access one property that is inner HTML. So this property inner HTML is going to return the text which is being written inside that component. So you can see we are having a text which is this is dummy para. So this obj dot inner HTML is going to return the HTML which is written inside that paragraph tag. Okay, so this obj will refer. So obj is object of p tag. Okay, so this inner HTML will give the content which is inside that paragraph element. Okay, so you can see that obj is an object of your paragraph, and from that object we have just taken out that this is dummy para. Okay, so all of you understood this mechanism?
सर हमने डॉक्यूमेंट डॉट राइट नहीं लिखा तो फिर भी वो पेज पे कैसे प्रिंट होगा?
Yes, is what?
डॉक्यूमेंट डॉट राइट हमने नहीं लिखा लेकिन वो दिस इज डमी पैरा वो पेज पे प्रिंट हो गया.
See, if you are writing document dot write, and in this document dot write you are writing this hello world, then try to observe what will happen. So you are able to see this is one your paragraph element and this is your hello world. So but if you want to customize this hello world, you are not having any flexibility so that you can customize this. Okay, but if you are having your text written inside your uh, any HTML element, then we can access them. Okay, and we can customize them because there is one container for this is dummy para, that is this p tag. And if you want to perform some operations on this text, then you can perform operation on this paragraph. But if you want to customize this hello world, then there is no way of doing it because we are not having any container element for it. Okay.
Okay, sir. Okay.
Yeah. So in any real-time application, always we will prefer to write some content into the HTML elements. Okay. So still you can write some data directly in your web page, but that is not a recommended way to doing the things because because you are having no control over this hello world. If you want to customize this hello world, then no way it is possible. Okay. But we are having the script tag, and this entire script is executing on the page load. Okay, so whenever your web page gets loaded into the browser, at the same time the script is being executed. Now what I want to do is I want to have one button. So let's say I'm writing my own custom button, that is input type equal to button. So this button will look like this. Okay. So by default, we are not having any text. And when I click this button, nothing is happening as of now. But I want this functionality to be executed on the click event of that button, because as of now this functionality is being executed on the page load. Okay, whenever your page gets loaded into the browser, at the same time the script is executing. Now we want to execute the script. Now we want to execute the script on the click event of a button. So I have created this button, okay, input type equal to button, which completely relies on a developer. Okay. So in order to display a value, I'm writing like a value equal to, let's say, click me. So you will be able to see that button will have a text, click me. And if you want to execute some JavaScript code on the click event of this button, so you are getting one event in HTML, that is on click. So this on click is an event. Okay, so this will be executed when a user clicks up this button. Now on this button click, we have to execute this logic. So we have to put this entire logic into a function, and we have to call that function on the click event of this button. So now let's define one function, and I'm just naming this function as manipulate DOM. Okay, I have just named this function as manipulate DOM, and we have to write this entire logic into this function. So whenever I want to execute these whole statements, so I would like to call this manipulate DOM function. So on which event we have to call this manipulate DOM? On the on click event of this button. Okay, so we have one event that is on click. So in this on click, we are supposed to call this manipulate DOM function. Okay, so this is how you can execute your statements based on certain event. Or if you want to make some changes on your web page by the button clicks, then on that button click, you have to handle that event whose name is on click. And on that event, just call your own function. And inside that function, you can write all the statements which you want to perform. So now you will be able to see that nothing is happening on the page load inside the script. Earlier, when we are loading our web page, then you guys are able to see the result on the console. But as of now, that script will be executed when someone clicks this button. So now I'm hitting this button. So at the console, you are able to see these all the things. Okay. So is it clear what I'm actually doing?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So we are done with the fetching the content which is written inside that HTML element. Okay. So this first operation is what we have done this thing. Let me open that txt file. Okay. So we have performed. So at first we have performed this operation fourth, right? Which is we can read the content of HTML elements. Now, if you are able to read the content of HTML element, then also we can change the content of HTML elements. Okay. So let me first create a separate file, and I'm naming this file as change content.html, and let's rename this file. So I'm renaming this file as read content. So this is read content.html. Okay, so this is how we are going to read the content. And now let's understand that how we are going to change the content. Again, we are having one paragraph element initially. This paragraph element is displaying one text, like this is dummy para, and we want to change its content on the button click. So also we need to have the button. So input type will be equal to button, and I'm displaying a value that is change data, and we need to handle this event that is on click. And let's define one script tag, and inside this script let's have one function, and I would like to name this function as change content. So now we want to change the content of this paragraph. So we need an object of this paragraph element. So who will give us an object of this paragraph? This document object. So on this document object, we can call a function get element by ID. So all the things are being hidden in the name of this function. We need an element by a matching ID. So in order to get this paragraph's object by ID, we need to assign a ID. Let's say this time I'm assigning ID like P1. So I'm passing one ID value, that is P1, and this function is going to return. Okay, so this function is going to return a value. So which value? The object of that paragraph element. So let's assign it into a variable that is para. Now what if we want to get the content which is written inside this paragraph? So we have to write this para dot inner html. So earlier we are reading its value, but if you want to change the content, then don't read its value, just assign a new data into it. Okay, so in earlier example, so in last example, we are just displaying the value of inner html property, but this time I'm assigning a value into the inner html. Okay, so there's a difference between our logic that if you are having any variable, so if you are logging that variable on the console, then this means what? We are just displaying the value of that variable. Now I'm just writing like a is equal to 6. So this means we are changing its value. So in the same way, this using this inner HTML property, you can read the content and you can also change the content. If you want to read the content, then you can definitely display its value, and if you want to change its content, then you have to assign a value into it. So now let's change this paragraph to hello world. Okay, so initially this paragraph will have a content like this is dummy para. Okay, so now inside that paragraph, uh, we are writing one new content that is hello world through the JavaScript. Okay, and we have to call this function change content on the button click. So let's call this function on the button click, which is change content. So let's open that web page, which is change content.html. Okay, so you are able to see one paragraph which is displaying this is dummy para. Now, if I will click on this button, then you are able to see this hello world. Okay, so this is how we are going to change the content of HTML element. Okay, so all of you understood?
Yes, sir.
Okay, great.
Sir, all these are predefined functions, right?
Yes, this function is predefined. This get element by ID, this inner HTML property is predefined, but this is our own function, which is change content. Okay, so now we are done with these two operations. One is the operation fourth and one is the operation fifth. We can change and we can read the content of HTML element. And also you can read the value of HTML attributes. Okay, so now let's perform the operation sixth and operation seventh. So sixth and seventh operations are what? We can read the values of attributes and we can change the value of attributes. Okay, so let's do one thing which you might have seen in various login form or in the sign up form, that whenever you enter your password, there is an option to show and hide. Have you seen that?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay, so let's define that functionality. Okay, so that we can we can have one real time scenario, like how we can change that content. Okay, so let's create a file and I'm naming that file as manipulate attribute.html. So in order to have that input field for a password, we have to define one input type equal to password, and there will be one placeholder like enter password. And first of all, let's have a button, and that button will have a type equal to button, and its value will be like show password. Now just think it by yourself that how we will be able to display the password value, because by default when we open this web page, and if we write something in this password field, that will be encrypted. Let me open this web page for you. Okay, so you can see we are having this password field, and if you write something, so it will be encrypted by these bullet symbols. So whenever some user is going to click this show password button, then what will be the possible way in which we can display the password value? Can you guys think of it?
Inner HTML.
No, not inner HTML. Remember, in your HTML forms, we are having one input type whose value is text. Do you guys remember it?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay, so when you are having this input type equal to text, and when you write something, so this is going to display that value. So what we need to do when someone
Convert to
clicks
text.
on, yes, exactly. We need to change its attribute. Yes or no?
Yes, sir.
Exactly.
Yes, sir.
Initially, this field will have a type password, and on this button click, we have to change the attribute. Okay. So in order to change that attribute, we need to write one script. So I'm having one script, and inside this script, let's define one function. Okay, because we need to call that function on the button click. So I'm naming this function as show password. And on this button click, so on click of this button, we have to call this function whose name is show password. So I have called this function, and on which field we want to perform this operation, on this input type equal to password. So you can see in your HTML document, we are having, okay, we are having multiple input tags, and we want to get the object of which input tag, first or second?
First.
Yes, so we need to assign an ID to this first input element. So I am assigning an ID like password field. Okay, I'm giving it an ID which is password field. So we need to get that object. So we need to call a function whose name is get element by ID, and pass ID of that HTML element. Okay, so that HTML element is having ID like password field. So I have passed this value, and this function is going to return an object of that entire input field. So I'm assigning this object into a variable like password input equal to this. So this password input is a variable that is holding the object of that input field. Now, what we have to do, we have to change the attribute value. So if you want to change the attribute value, so write the name of object, and onto that object just call one function whose name is set attribute. So by reading the name of function, what idea you are getting?
Setting an attribute.
Changing the
Exactly.
Set
The name
attribute.
is itself is specifying everything. That if you want to set a value to an attribute, you just have to call the set attribute function. And which attribute we want to set, just pass its name. Okay, we want to set attribute type, and we have to pass its new value. So the new value will be text. Okay, so this password input, so this on this password input object, we have changed the attribute value. And suppose if we want to read the value of any attribute, can you guys think of that which function we will get in order to read the attribute value?
Get attribute.
Exactly,
In our
get
HTML.
attribute. So set attribute will assign a value, or you can say set attribute will change the value of your HTML attribute. And if you want to get the value, then get attribute will be there. Okay, we will see that also. But as of now, I have just changed the type attribute from password to text. Let's open this page and refresh it. So yeah, initially when we write anything, so that password will be encrypted. And when I will click on this button, so this password field, so this input field is going to change its type from password to text. Okay, so you guys are able to see this password value which is written. Okay, so is it clear to all of you?
Yes, sir.
Okay, but you have also seen a mechanism like whenever you are displaying that password, that button will show a text like hide password. Yes or no?
Yes,
Yes.
sir.
Yes, sir.
On
Yes.
that same button, we will be able to see a text like hide password. And on and when user clicked that hide password button, we have to again change it attribute to password. So how is this thing will be possible? How
Set
we can make?
attribute.
Yes,
Again,
exactly.
set attribute.
Yes,
Another
we
button.
have to set attribute for this button. Okay, so now we have to give ID to this button, and I'm naming this ID as BTN. So again, we have to get the object of this button. So on this document dot get element by ID, document dot get element by ID, we have to pass the value of ID, that is BTN, and just assign uh, reference which is var button. Okay, so we have to change the value of that button. So on this button reference, again we have to call one function that is set attribute, and which attribute we need to change, that is value. And what value we need to show, that is hide password. So when someone is going to click this button which is displaying a text like show password, so these two fields, one is your input field and one is your button, is going to change their attribute. So we are changing the type of this input field, and we are changing the value for this button. So I'm writing any random password, and now I'm going to click this button. So you can see we are having this text which is displayed, so that we can view our password. And you can see this button is having a text that is hide password. Now what will be the next operation? Just try to think of it.
Button dot set attribute.
Again, when user will click this button, we have to change the type to password, and we have to change the value to show password. Yes or no?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes, sir.
So this means this button will be performing two operations based on a condition. We need to apply some condition or not?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
What kind of condition?
Sir, again, get element by ID.
Yes,
We need to change the event of that button.
we need to change the event. Which event?
First, the converting that text into password again.
Exactly. So first of all, we have to check that what is the value which is being written on the button. If that button is having a value show password, then we have to do this kind of thing. Okay. And if button is having a value hide password, then we have to do reverse of it. So this time we have to read the value attribute for this button. Yes or no?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
So when we want to read the value of the attribute, so we have to call this function which is get attribute. So inside this get attribute function, we just have to pass the name of that attribute. So what is the name of that attribute? Value. Okay, so this is going to return a value which is written on that button. So I'm assigning this into a variable which is btn text. Okay, and we have to read and we have to read the value. So we have just written this code. Okay, and we are having that text assigned into the btn text. And what will be the next? So we have to write one condition.
If else conditions.
Yeah, we have to write one if else condition, like if btn text is equal to show password. If btn text is equal to show password, then we have to do this thing.
Set password.
Yeah.
Set attribute. Yes.
If that button is having text which is of show password, then we have to display the password, and button will change its value to hide password. But when this condition will become false?
When it is already, changed to that.
When the value
Text
is
to
the
type.
Yes,
Text
this
to text.
condition will become false when
Invalid
button
password.
text is not show password. Then
Yes.
it's guaranteed that button text is hide password. Then we have to do reverse of it. So just copy this and paste this, and we need to assign a type that is password, and let's assign a value to
Show.
that button that is show password. And what is the function name which we are having? The show password. So we by reading the function's semantics, this function name right now is not suitable, because this function is behaving whenever we need to show the password and we need to hide the password, we are accessing the same function only. So this name right now is not suitable for the readability purpose. Okay, so when someone is reading the function name, they will get idea that this function is only showing the password, not hiding it. So I would like to name this function as toggle password. So I would like to name this function as toggle password. So what this toggle word means?
One click will be on and one click will be off.
Yes, toggle means
Alternate.
switching
Yes.
switching between two states, right? That is toggle. Okay, so now I'm writing a password value and I'm clicking on this. So you can see we are able to see the password value. And again, when I'm clicking this button, so again, all the things are the same. Okay. So all of you understood this?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, great. One second. Okay, so we are done with manipulating the attribute. So in the same way, you can get any attribute. Let's say if you want to get the placeholder, if you want to get ID of any element, if you want to get href of any anchor tag, src of any image, you can manipulate like this. Okay. Okay, so we are done with these 4, 5, 6, and 7th operations. Okay, so now let's perform this third operation, that we can change the style of the HTML element. So now let's perform this operation. So I'm naming this file as change style.html. Okay, so we are having one division on my web page, and we have to display one h1, and in this h1 I'm writing one heading which is hello world, and I'm writing one paragraph like this is a dummy para, and initially I would like to write some css for it. So style, and inside that style I'm just writing the tag selector, because as of now I'm having only a single division, and if you are having multiple you can also give id or class to it. So I'm writing this background property, and for this background I'm giving one background color, that is red, and let's define some width and height for this division. I'm defining width as 400 pixels, and again height as 400 pixels. So this is my division, and by default, these H1 and paragraph will have black text color. I want to change that. So you can directly apply this color property and applying it as white. So now let's look at this web page. Okay, so you can see we are having this paragraph. We are having this paragraph and one heading element, which is being placed inside this division. Now, what I want to do is, when some user is hitting one button, clicking a button, I want to change the background of this division. So let's create one button. So input type is equal to button. So input type is equal to button. So we need to assign a value to it. Let's say I'm assigning a value. This means I would like to display a text which is change background.
Bless you.
Sorry, change background. So now let's create one script tag. And this script tag will have a function, and I'm naming this function as change background. Okay, so first of all, we need an object of that division. Okay, we need an object of that division of which we need to change the background. So we have to get that object by ID. So I'm naming this ID as container. So first of all, I need an object of this division. So just write document dot get element by ID, and just mention your ID like container, and assign it into a variable. For example, I'm assigning it this value in the variable which is container. Okay, so we are having that object whose name is container. So this object will be of this division. And on this object, if you want to change its style, then you have to write container dot style. Okay, for any HTML element, if we want to change their CSS, if we want to change that style, so on their HTML element, you need to get their object, and onto that object, you need to access this style property. So on this style property, you are about to access one property, that is background. Suppose if you want to change the font size, then you can change font size also. Suppose if you want to change the text color, then you are having one color property. If you want to apply the padding property, like padding left, then padding top, padding bottom, you can also apply any CSS property as you want. So this time I want to change the background. So I'm writing the new value for background like blue. Okay. And when someone is going to click this button, so on click of this button, I want to call this function which is change background. Okay, so when someone clicks on this button, so this function will be executed, and this function is going to change the background, which is to blue. So initially this division will be displayed in the red color, and on the click event of this button, so on the click event of this button, this background will change. Okay. So all of you understood this?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay. So now let's move on to these first operations, which is we can add new element into the HTML DOM, and we can remove the element from our HTML DOM. So how we are able to read, how we are able to add new elements? Let's create one file and let's have a practical implementation of it. Like add remove tags.html. Okay, so for this example, let's do one thing. I want to take multiple phone numbers for a single user. Okay, I want to take multiple phone numbers for a single user. So initially, one field will be displayed. Okay, so initially, I want to display one field, and along that field, we have to add one button. Let me first of all display one input field, that is input type is equal to text, and I'm writing placeholder like enter phone number. And just in front of this button, okay, so just in front of this button, I'm writing one button which is type equal to button, and this button will be having a value that is plus. Now let me open this web page and show you what exactly I'm trying to do is. Okay, so we have to take multiple phone numbers input from a user. So this is one input field which we are having, and we are having this plus button, and for any user, one phone number is required. And if that user is having multiple phone number, then user will click on this button and new field should be generated. Okay. So if suppose user is having three phone numbers, then one phone number will be entered in this field. And for the another phone number, to enter the second phone number, user will click on this plus button. And to add the third phone number, again user will click this button. So all of you understood what we need to do?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay, so on this plus button click, we have to generate some new HTML elements. So on this event, which is on click, we have to call our JavaScript function, which will generate new fields for us. And I would like to name this function as generate field, because whenever user is going to click this button, we have to call this function whose name is generate field, and this generate field function is going to define or is going to display a new input field onto our HTML page. So let me call this function whose name is generate field. So whenever you want to create any new HTML element, first of all, that newly defined HTML element should be the child of any HTML element. For example, if you want to add a new input, so that input must have to be a child of an HTML element. So for that purpose, I'm creating one division. Okay, so inside this division, uh, I want the new input fields to be created. So let me assign an ID for this division. For example, I'm assigning a name like field container. Okay, so this input field is going to contain, sorry, this division is going to contain newly generated input fields. Okay, so in order to achieve that functionality, first of all, we need an object. Okay, we need an object of this field container, because whenever we are generating one input field, so that input tag or that input element will become the child of this field container. Okay, so let me write one comment here. We have to just create a new input field. Okay, so we have to just create a new input field, and that input field will become a child of the field container. Okay, because it's the developer's responsibility to just define that where we need to place that new HTML element that we will define with the help of the JavaScript. So I'm just deciding that I want to display that input field inside this division. So this division will act as a container for all the newly generated input fields, and all the input field will become the child of this field container. So all of you understood theoretically what we want to do?
Sir, can you please explain again?
Yes, sir. Yes.
So what
Hello, sir.
exactly I'm trying to do is I want to generate new input field, and as a developer we have to decide that where we have to place that newly generated HTML element. So I have decided that in my whole HTML document I am having this division. Okay, and in this division only I want to display the newly generated input element. So this means when we are done with generating the new input field, so we will define that input field to become the child of this field container. Do you know about the parent element and the child element?
Okay, okay. Means field container is the parent of all fields.
Yes, all the fields which will be newly generated.
Okay, okay. Thank you.
Okay, okay.
Yes, sir, understood.
So we just need an object of this field container. So just ask your DOM to give that object. So document.get element by ID. So field container will be its object. So where just assign a variable like field container. Okay, so now let's just see that how we are going to create a new input field. Okay, or any HTML element. So if you are going to create a new HTML element, then you have to write this document dot, and you are having one function whose name is this, whose name is create element. Okay, so we need to call this function whose name is create element. So this function is going to create a new element in your DOM, and you have to pass the name of that element which you want to create. Suppose if you want to define one new paragraph, then you have to pass this p. And if you want to have one div element, so you have to pass the name like div. But which element we need here, which is the input. So document dot create element, and I have given the name of that element as input. So this function is going to create an input field on the HTML DOM. And let's assign the reference into a variable and I'm naming that variable as, for example, phone input, because this input field belongs to our phone input. Okay, so we have just initially created one HTML element into the DOM. Okay, so this is the function whose name is create element, who is going to define new HTML element onto your existing DOM. But we have to place this newly defined HTML element inside a division whose object we are having with the name filled container. Okay, so we have to write the filled container object. Okay, we have to write this filled container object, and we have to mention that this phone input will should have to become a child of this filled container. We have to specify this. Okay, because if you not specify this kind of thing, so then this phone input field will not be displayed on your web page. And if you want to display that input field, or if you want to display any newly defined HTML element into your web page, so you have to make that element as a child. Okay, so I have to append this phone input inside the filled container as a child. So that filled container will become the parent element of this phone input. So in order to do that, I have to call this function, which is append child. And inside this function, just pass the object of that new input field. So phone input is an object of that input field. I have passed that object into append child. So on this filled container, I have called this append child. So by reading the function name, what idea we are getting about this? Append means what? Append means what?
Concat.
Store in it.
Join.
Exactly. And append child means what? We are appending a new child element. Okay, so this filled container is going to have this phone input as a new child. So now let's see what will happen. Now I'm going to click this button plus. So you guys are able to see one input field has been generated. Okay, but we have to assign a type to that newly generated field, and we have to assign one placeholder for that. So just write this phone input dot set attribute, and on this set attribute, I'm passing the name of attribute which I want to set, that is type, and its value will be text. And we need to assign the placeholder also. So set attribute, and just assign a placeholder attribute. So placeholder, and the value of placeholder will be like enter phone. Now let's again refresh this page. I'm clicking on this button, and you can see we are having one new input field, but that input field is vertically got stuck with this previous input field. There is no vertical gap in between them. So is there any solution to that problem?
BR.
BR tag.
Padding.
Yes. You
Padding.
can also write some
Margin.
BR, or you can also assign some padding. So let me assign one padding for that. So phone input dot style dot, we need to give which value? Padding top, and just assign a padding top like 20 pixels. Okay, so now I'm clicking on this button. Oh, not the padding, because padding
BR
simply means
Margin.
the inner space. You
Margin.
can
Margin,
assign,
margin, sir, margin.
margin.
you can assign the margin property. So when you assign the margin property, this will give the outer spaces. Okay, and you can also go with the BR tag. So just have your new BR tag, and that will going to change the line. And but what will happen when again I will click this button?
Again, function will go.
Nothing will
Yes.
happen.
Why nothing will happen?
Again, function
One
will
more-
call na from that.
one more event.
Whenever we click on this button, this event will be executed and this function will be called again, and one new input field will be created.
Generate.
Yes, yes.
Yes. So you can say again we are having one new input field, but I want this input field to be generated in new line only. So in that case, what we can do?
BR.
Yes, this
yeah.
time we have to go with BR. So after appending the phone input, we have to create one more element. So I'm writing this function create element, and the name of that element would be BR. And let's assign a reference into this variable, which is BR, and we have to append this BR also in the filled container. So filled container dot append child, and we need to pass a value that is BR. Okay, so you can see every input field is being created in the new line. So now we are done with the defining these input fields. Now, what will happen when suppose user have clicked on this button by mistake? There might be a case where suppose some user has clicked this button by mistake unknowingly, okay, and we need to give a minus button in front of every field. Are you guys understanding my point?
Yes,
Yes,
yes. Yes, sir.
So in order to give that minus button, we have to display or we need to create one button also. So where we need to create this button, after BR or before BR?
Before BR.
Before.
Exactly, before BR. We need to create that button. So we have to write this document dot create element, and inside this create element, we need to write again one input field. And let's assign a reference to it. Let's say button. And if we want to create this as a button, so we have to set attribute. So just call this function, which is button dot set attribute, and attribute will be its type, and the value which is we need to pass, that is button. And again a button dot set attribute, we need to display the value for that button. So that would be value, and value will be like minus. And we have to append this button also. So on this filled container, again call this function, which is append child, and just append this button. So now when I click on this plus, you are able to see that every input field is having a minus button with it. Now I want you guys to just provide a functionality to this minus button. Okay, I want you guys to provide the functionality of minus button. Yes, first of all, I'm going to tell you that which function we need to call in order to remove that field. Okay, so when we are defining one new HTML element, we are using this function document dot create element, and to display that element on the container, we are using this append child. But if we want to remove a child element from a parent container, so what we have to do, we have to call this function whose name is remove child. Okay, we have to call this function on that container. Like if you want to remove that button, so you have to call filled container dot remove child function, and you have to pass the object of that specific child. Okay, so I want you guys to give the functionality of this minus button. Just give it a try. All of you understood what we need to do?
Yes, sir.
Okay, So these are the all operations that we are going to perform with the help of DOM manipulation. Okay. 1 second. Okay, so now let's move on to our next concept. So our next concept is going to be the jQuery. So let me create a text file. This is jQuery.txt. Okay, so first of all, we need to understand that basically this jQuery is not a new language. Okay, so first of all, very important point, this jQuery is not a language. So what actually is this jQuery is? So jQuery is just a library. Okay, so this jQuery is just a library. So what will be the plus point of using any library?
Predefined function.
Yes,
To
you
store
will
the
get
predefined
lots
function.
of predefined functions and predefined functionalities into that library so that you can ease your development process. That's the advantage of using any library. So that will be the same advantage of using jQuery. So instead of writing your entire JavaScript from the scratch, from the zero level. So instead of writing that JavaScript code from the scratch, you guys can write the code for jQuery. Okay. So this jQuery is going to make your life simple. So you can do all the operations in an easier way. Okay, but it is not always necessary or compulsory that we should go with jQuery. Without jQuery, nothing will happen. It is not like that. Okay, so jQuery is just a library which is going to save the developer efforts. So the jQuery is going to make life of developer very simple. How we are going to use this jQuery? So first of all, we have to download this library and we have to attach this library into our HTML page, because this jQuery is not the official library of those W3C World Wide Web Consortium. Okay, so if you want to use this jQuery, you have to attach it separately. You need to download this jQuery separately. So jQuery is just a library which provides some predefined functions just to save efforts of the developer. Okay, just to save the efforts of the developers, so that any developer, if any developer want to do any logical operation uh, using JavaScript, so they are having two options. Either they can write the code in JavaScript or they can go with jQuery. Okay, just to save the efforts of the developer, or you can say to ease the JavaScript code. Okay, we can use the jQuery. For example, DOM manipulation. Okay, so in DOM manipulation, we are writing the JavaScript code from the scratch, from the zero level. Okay, but if we want to make these operations look more easy and more simple, so in order to achieve this thing, we can use jQuery. Okay, so this jQuery is meant to ease the life of JavaScript developers. Okay, so now let's see that how we are going to install that jQuery, how we are going to download this jQuery. So this jQuery comes up with a .js JavaScript file, and in that JavaScript file, you are having lots of predefined functions. So you just have to attach that JavaScript library. This means this jQuery library into your web page, and you are ready to use that jQuery. So let me show you that how we are going to attach that jQuery library into our web page. So just Google search for it, jQuery. So you can download this jQuery from the official website of this jQuery only. So you are having one option to download it. Okay, so when you click on the download, so you are having two options. One is the compressed and one is the uncompressed. You can use either version. Okay, you can use either this compressed, or you can go with this uncompressed also. But what will be the difference between compressed and the uncompressed version is that whenever you are writing the JavaScript code, okay, let me write one point, jQuery or any library. Okay, so jQuery comes up with two variants. So first is the compressed one and another is uncompressed one. So what will be the technical difference between compressed and uncompressed when you are writing any JavaScript code? So what is the basic approach in which we are writing the JavaScript code? Like first of all, we will declare a variable like where x equal to 5. Then for any new statement, you are changing the line. Okay, like I want to compare one condition, so I'm writing if, and to write the condition we are writing this parenthesis, let's say x greater than equal to 2. This is my condition, and instead of writing entire code in the same line, we are just changing line again and again. So why we write code in new lines? Why we used to write new lines?
Readability.
Yes, just to maintain the readability. Okay, but if you are writing your code in this formatted way, then it is going to take a lot more space. Now let's say, suppose if you are having lakhs of lines. Okay, if you are having suppose thousands and lakhs of lines written into your any JavaScript file, now it is now it is going to read it is going to make your code more readable if you are writing your code into new lines, but again with the cost of added extra space. So it is going to take a lot more space into your system. But what if we are going to write our code in this way? Is it possible that in
Yes.
which we can
Yes,
write our
Yes,
code in
yes,
the
possible.
same
yes,
line?
Yes.
yes.
Definitely it is possible, but it will not be more easy to read this code. Okay, but what will be the advantage of writing such kind of code?
Space management.
Exactly. So that's the only difference between the compressed and the uncompressed version. Okay, so in this compressed version, the entire code will be written into the same line, so that it will take less space. So now if you want a more readable version of that jQuery library, you can go with this uncompressed. So let me write one point for you. So this is the compressed version of any code. You can also refer this compressed version as the minified version. Okay, and what will be the uncompressed, in which you are using the format, you are changing the lines and you are writing the spaces, so that will be considered as uncompressed. So these are the differences between compressed and the uncompressed. Let me show you. So I have opened this compressed version, so you can see, you are able to see this amount of JavaScript code which is being written to develop the jQuery. Are you guys able to see it?
Yes, yes. Read also. Readability.
Okay, yeah. So this is going to cause a readability issue, but this is going to save a lot much amount of space into your system. Now let me open that uncompressed. Now you can see this is the uncompressed version which you are able to see on your screen. So if you want to have the readability, then you can definitely go with this. And if you don't want the readability, you just want to use that code into your web page. So you just don't think that we need to read that jQuery code. Okay. So it is always better to go with this minified version, or this compressed version. Why is it so?
It takes less memory.
Less
Exactly.
memory.
For any library, I'm saying this for any library, not your own code. Okay, I'm just saying this for any library. If you are having minified version, then it is always better to go with it. Okay, so let's download this jQuery. So how we will be able to download? Just open this and just save it. Okay, or you can also give a reference of this link. So as of now, I'm saving this jQuery file into our folder. Okay, so the name of jQuery file is jQuery 3.6.1.min.js. So this min.js is representing the minified version of this JavaScript. Okay, so we have downloaded this jQuery by just saving that file, and you are able to see this jQuery file into our folder. And let's create one HTML file in which I'm going to link this jQuery library. So I'm naming that file as jQuery demo.js. Oh, sorry, .html. So every JavaScript file will have extension of .js. So for our JavaScript, for this HTML file, this .js file will behave like an external JavaScript, as we have seen the external CSS. Okay, so we have to attach this JavaScript file into this HTML file. We have to link that jQuery file in HTML file. Now let's open this in VS Code. Now let's write this HTML basic structure. Now, if you want to link that external JavaScript with your HTML, then you need to write the script tag. Okay, and inside the script tag, we have to write one attribute, that is src, and inside src just mention the path of that external JavaScript file. So the path of that external JavaScript file is something like this. Okay, because as of now, our HTML file and that .js file is at the same location. Okay, so that's why I have given the path like this. jQuery 3.6 means I have written directly the name of file. So is it clear to all of you?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes.
So now let's see that how we are going to write the jQuery syntax. Okay, so you guys might find it so you guys might find it a little bit weird by looking the syntax of jQuery. So just try to bear with me. Just try to understand that what I'm going to do. Since jQuery is a library, you are getting all the predefined function, but in order to write the code for the jQuery operations, okay, you need to follow some special syntax. So first of all, you have to execute. So we need to execute the JavaScript code only once, only when once web page has been completely loaded. First of all, we have to understand this fact, which is we need to execute the JavaScript code only when once the web page has been completely loaded. Okay, so this means when your web page is ready to display it on the browser, then only we have to execute our JavaScript code. Why this is so? Because our JavaScript is going to work on our HTML elements. So in order to work on that, on those HTML elements, we need to load all the HTML elements in the browser. So we have to wait. We have to wait till the entire web page has been loaded into the browser. Okay, so first of all, we need to execute the JavaScript logic only when the entire web page has been loaded into the browser. So how we are able to know that our web page has been loaded into the browser? So your browser is going to fire one event, that is the ready event. So our browser is going to fire one event. Which event is that? The ready event. Okay. Let me write one point here. When a web page has been loaded, so when a web page has been loaded completely in the browser, so that browser will fire a ready event. Okay, so whenever a web page is being successfully loaded into the browser memory, that browser will fire a ready event. So we have to wait for this ready event to be executed. Then after we will write our own, then after we will execute our own logic. Okay, so this is the mechanism which you have to follow. And what will be the syntax of event handling as far as jQuery is considered? So in jQuery, if you want to handle any event, for example, if I'm having one button, okay, if I want to handle the click event of that button, I need the object of that button. So I have one object of that button, and if I want to handle the click event, then what I need to do? So just write button dot, let me write a general syntax for it, that syntax for event handling in jQuery. Okay, so what syntax we need to follow in order to handle any event? Okay, so we need first of all one object of that element. Okay, and on that object just write the name of that event. So this is the syntax, object dot event. Let's say if you are having one button, and the name of the buttons object is also a button. Let's say in your JavaScript you are having where button is equal to document dot get element by id, that kind of thing. You are having that button object, and on this button object you want to handle the click event. So what is the name of that event? Is a click. Okay, so I would like to write this event name. So just write the name of that event. So button dot click, and just pass a callback function. So how we can pass a callback function? So either you can go with anonymous function, or you can go with this arrow function. Okay, so this is how your jQuery syntax will behave. So you have to write this object dot event name, and just pass an arrow function. And whenever this button will be clicked, this arrow function will be executed by jQuery. So this is the syntax which we have to follow. So all of you understood this?
Sir, can you please repeat this one?
Yeah. So what we have to do in jQuery, we need to handle the event. What uh, is the meaning of event handling?
Controlling that event.
Exactly, controlling that event. This means whenever that event has been fired, we have to execute some statements. So this is the syntax which you need to follow in order to achieve the jQuery functionality. So this is the syntax. If you are having any object, just write the name of that object, and after dot, just write the name of that event, and inside that parenthesis just pass an arrow function. What we have seen for this arrow function, is it a callback function?
Arrow. Yes.
Yes.
Yes, this is a callback function. So this syntax you have to follow for jQuery. So what this code really means, when someone clicks on that button, this click event will be fired, and on that click event, this callback function will be executed. So this is the meaning of this syntax. So just try to understand the meaning. So button dot click and this callback is representing what? Whenever this button will be clicked, so this code will be executed. Are you guys able to understand
Yes.
it?
Yes.
Yes, sir.
Okay, so now we have to wait for which event, since we are handling this click event of the button. So now for the entire web page, for which event we have to wait, you can see.
Fire.
Ready
Web
event.
ready,
Abhi ready.
ready, web
Yes,
page readiness.
exactly. We have to wait for this ready event to get fired. So on which object we will handle this ready event?
Document.
Exactly,
Document object.
because that document object belongs to our entire web page. So just
Yes.
write the name of your object, and just write the name of that event, and inside that ready event, just pass a callback function. So whenever your document is ready, so this callback function will be executed at the same time. So let me write the syntax. Document dot, we have to listen the ready event. Okay, so document dot ready, and inside that ready we have to pass this callback function. Okay, so this is how your jQuery syntax will look like. And if you are not writing this arrow symbol, then you can either go with this kind of anonymous function concept. Okay, is it clear?
Yes,
Yes, sir.
yes.
Okay, so then let's have a short break, and we will further resume with the jQuery. Okay, let's have a
Hello,
short
sir.
break there.
Hello.
Yes.
This callback function means predefined function.
No, no, no. We are defining that function.
Okay.
Yeah.
Nada.
Hello guys, welcome.
Okay, so welcome back after the break. So I'm sharing my screen. Okay, so is my screen visible to all?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay, great. So,
Yes, sir.
yeah, hello. Oh, yes, any doubt? Okay. So, before break, we are discussing the syntax of the jQuery. So, in that syntax, we have seen that if you want to handle any event, so you need to write the object and dot name of that event. Okay, and inside that event, you need to pass a callback function. Either you can write anonymous function, or you can write this callback function. Okay, it's your choice. Okay, but in order to get the object of any element, in order to get the object of any element in regular JavaScript, what is the approach? We have written this document dot get element by ID function, and we are just passing the value of ID, and in return we are getting that object like obj is equal to this. We are doing this thing, but this thing is made easy in jQuery. How? You don't need to write document dot get element by id and all this thing. Okay, you don't need to call this function. You have to follow the syntax of jQuery itself. So just listen it carefully, just see it carefully. Okay. So if you want to get any object of element by its id, so you have to write this dollar symbol. Okay, just try to understand this syntax of writing the jQuery. So first of all, you need to write this dollar. After this dollar, open your parenthesis, and in this parenthesis, you have to mention the ID. Like if I am having ID, so I will mention the name of or value of that ID. But if you are passing any ID, you have to refer that ID with the hash symbol. Okay, again, look what I'm trying to do is, suppose in my HTML, let me write one paragraph element in HTML. Okay, so in my HTML, this is a dummy para. Okay, this is the paragraph which I'm having. Let's give it an ID, like I'm giving it ID as P1. So what happens in regular JavaScript, that if you want to get the object of this para with ID P1, So we have to call this document dot get element by ID, and we are passing the value of ID like P1. Then only we will be able to get this object. But for the jQuery, you don't need to write such kind of logic. You don't need to write document dot get element by ID. You don't need to call that function by yourself. You just have to follow the syntax of jQuery. What is that? Just write dollar symbol, and after this dollar symbol, open the parenthesis, and on this parenthesis and inside this parenthesis, you have to mention the ID. But this parenthesis is not only meant to pass the ID. You can pass the name of your HTML element. You can pass the name of class. You can pass the name of that ID. So if you want to pass the ID, then you have to declare that P1 is an ID. So how we are going to differentiate between a tag name and the value of ID? By using this hash symbol. So this entire statement is being converted to this little amount of code. Now just assign it into where obj equal to this. So instead of writing this document dot get element by ID, we have written this dollar, and then inside the parenthesis, I have written the selector, which is hash P1. Now let's say if you are having any division, and that division is having a ID like filled container. That division is having ID like filled container. So if you want to get the object of that division, so in regular JavaScript, what is the approach? So document dot get element by ID, and inside that we are passing the ID value as filled container. So this is the usual way. So now what about jQuery? We have to write a dollar, then after parenthesis, then inside this parenthesis, what we need to write?
Field container. Hashtag field container.
Hashtag field container.
Hashtag.
Yes, only hash.
Create field.
Is it
Hash.
Instagram? You are writing hashtags. Filled container. So you need to write the hash filled container. So just assign it into any variable of your choice. Let's say x equal to this. Okay, so that's how the jQuery is making your lives easy in order to perform any operation on your web page. So now,
Sir,
what will be the jQuery syntax in yes?
means hash means the get element by ID.
Yes, exactly. By reading this hash, internally jQuery is going to call this JavaScript function, which is get element by ID.
Okay, sir.
Okay, so this is the way in which you can simplify your things in jQuery. So in this similar way, you have to listen to this ready event also. Okay, you are not supposed to write directly that object. If you want to get that object, you have to write this syntax of dollar, then inside the parenthesis. So since document object is not dependent on some ID, you can directly write this object name. So dollar inside parenthesis, write document, and then after it, open your ready function. Okay, so this will be the syntax for handling the events in jQuery. So let me write this whole syntax as first of all, we have to wait till the complete page has been loaded. So dollar document. So this will be our selector for the object, and we have to read one event that is ready. So document dot ready, and inside this ready we have to pass one anonymous function. So either you can pass this anonymous function like this, or you may also go with this kind of arrow function. So it's your choice totally. Okay, so now I'm writing one console log statement. So console.log, and inside this console log, I'm writing one hello world example. Okay, So if you want to execute this such kind of logic, then you have to add this script tag. Okay, because without writing this script tag, you will not be able to use this. So let me open this web page, jQuery demo.html. Okay, so you can see with the help of jQuery, we are displaying a hello world on the console. So rest all the things are going to remain the same. Okay, just only your event handling is going to be simplified. DOM manipulation will be simplified, and yes, and if you want to perform some animations, or let's say if you want to perform some form validations, so that task will also be simplified in the jQuery. So let me copy this code. Okay, so this is the very basic syntax of implementing the jQuery. Now, what if we want to handle any button click event? Suppose I'm having one button and I'm writing this, its type as button, and on its value, I'm displaying a text like show. Okay, so that button is having a value that is show, and as since in JavaScript, in plain JavaScript, what we are actually doing in order to handle the click event, we are writing one attribute on click, and on this on click, we are executing our own defined JavaScript function. But now let's try to do the same thing in jQuery. So now let's give it an ID, like I'm giving its ID as BTN. Now I want to handle the click event of this button. So again, inside this ready function, inside this ready functions anonymous function, we need to get the object of that button. So instead of writing this document dot get element by ID, we have to follow the jQuery syntax so that we can simplify our things. So just write dollar and write parenthesis, and inside the parenthesis write the ID as hash btn, and on its object just handle the click event like dot click, and this click is again going to have a one callback function. So this callback function will be executed when this hash btn will be clicked, and on the click event of this button, I'm going to execute one alert function. That is, this function is not from the jQuery. This is the normal JavaScript function. Okay, so this alert function will display a dialog box on your browser. So on this alert, I'm displaying a text which is hello world. So when some user is going to click this show button, so this click event will be fired, and the return callback function will be executed. Okay, so you guys are able to see a show button on your web page, and let me click this button. So you can see when I click this button, the message is being displayed, hello world. So in this way, we are able to work with the jQuery. So have you guys understood this mechanism?
Sir, can you repeat it shortly?
Which thing you are not getting?
The 16th line, 15th, 16th line.
Yes, sir. That click from click.
What we are doing here, what we have studied in this thing, what is this? The code which I'm highlighting, what is this? What?
Calling document dot ready and passing the arrow
Now,
function.
if I'm writing dollar and parenthesis, what exactly we are trying to do? We are getting the document object.
Yes.
And on that document object, we are handling which event?
Ready event.
We are handling the ready event. How we are handling? We are passing a callback. So when our document will be ready, this callback function will be executed. So this callback will depend on this specific event to be executed. So you just have to follow this syntax. Just memorize this syntax. If you want to work with jQuery, you have to memorize this syntax dollar and just put your object and dot event name, and inside the event name function you have to pass one callback. And what will be the flow of execution when on this object this event will occur, this callback function will be executed. Are you getting my point?
Yes, sir. Yes.
When on this object this event will occur, this callback function will be executed. Just memorize the syntax. Now what if we want to handle the click event of a button? What we have to do?
Event name is a click.
Yes, event name will be click, object will be
Input.
fetched by the ID,
Yes.
like hash btn will give us an object, event name
Yes.
will be click,
Click.
and inside this click just pass your callback function. So when this button will be clicked, this callback function will be executed, and I have just displayed one alert function inside this. And why I have placed this btn dot click inside the ready?
After ready, the click will get executed.
Exactly. We have to execute the JS code only when once web page has been loaded completely. Then only we have to execute our code. So this function is containing what? Which is starting from line number 15 and goes up to line number 19. This function contains the entire jQuery logic. If I'm erasing this, now you are able to see we are having this callback function. So this callback function will be executed once your page is ready, and then only we have to perform some operation. And then I have handled, and then I have handled the buttons click event. Got this point or not?
Yes, sir. Yes.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Let me copy this code. Okay. So now let's do some more things using jQuery, like how we are going to read the value inside any HTML element, like we have seen in DOM manipulation. We can do those same operation inside jQuery also.
Sir, this is not a method calling, right? We are not calling here the ready method or the click method. The methods are called by the system. Ready method is called by the system, and after the page loaded, and the click method is called by after that clicking the button.
Yes.
Right. This is not a calling
This
of
is
the
not
method.
our,
Right?
yes, this is not our predefined function. This is not a custom user defined function. This click and ready are the predefined function.
Okay. Or now how can customize? Okay. I will.
Okay, so I'm having one paragraph element, and I want to write some content inside it. Let's say this is dummy para. Okay, now I'm assigning one ID into this paragraph, that is, for example, P1. What I want to do is whenever some user clicks on this button, I want to show the content of this paragraph, and I want to use the jQuery. Okay. So first of all, we have to wait till the page has been loaded. So for that purpose, we have to write dollar document dot ready. We have to wait for this event to be executed. And once this ready event has been executed, this callback function is being called internally. So whatever be the code you need to write, we have to write that inside this ready function. and we have to handle the event of this button. Which event? We have to handle the click event. So we have to write this dollar and we have to write this hash btn. So this thing will give us an object of this button, and on that button we need to call this click function. So this click function will be called automatically whenever someone is going to hit that button. And which thing we need to execute? Yes, Vijay?
Okay. So all the things which we are performing to this page will be put in this ready function.
Yes,
Right?
yes.
So we cannot declare this ready function or fire this function in head body, head area.
No, that's not the recommended way.
Okay.
Yeah.
But sir,
I was thinking that once we fire this ready event into the head area, then we can write script into the body area.
See, if you are writing any JavaScript in your head, so which thing will be executed first, head or body?
No, I don't want to write JavaScript into head, but JavaScript into the body area, but want to fire this event in head area.
No,
I
no,
have
no,
seen
no.
this.
This event will be fired automatically by your browser.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
sir, but before using this jQuery, we didn't fire any ready event.
Yes. That's the bad practice.
Yes,
will improve.
before using this jQuery, we didn't fire any ready event, na, sir.
Yes, we
But
haven't fired.
Yes, yes, yes.
But it's the good practice to wait for the entire web page to get loaded into the browser memory. Then after we have to execute a script, because our script will be working on HTML tags, and if your HTML tags are correct, your script should be executed.
Okay, means this ready event is just to identify whether our page is fully ready or not.
Exactly.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Yeah. So I'm handling the buttons click event, and on the click event of this button, I want to read the content of this paragraph. So how we are going to identify this paragraph in jQuery? Do we need to write document dot get element by ID?
No.
No.
So what we can do?
Hash p1. Dollar hash p1.
Exactly. Dollar hash p1. So on this object, we have to get its content. Like, so you can call one function whose name is text. Okay, so this text function is going to return the text which is being written inside this paragraph element. So let's assign that text into a variable like data, and you can do whatever on whatever be the operation on this data variable. So either you can log it onto the console, or you can log or can print its value onto your HTML page. Anything you can do with it. Let's say this time I'm logging this value on the console. So now let's refresh it, and let me open that console. Yeah. So now just click on show, and you are able to see that this is dummy para. So this is an object. This dollar hash p1 is an object, and this dot text is a function which is defined in the jQuery, which is internally. So this statement is internally referring to that document dot get element by ID and dot inner HTML. So instead of writing that long syntax, you just need to call this text function, and this is returning this data, and we have assigned into a variable, and we are displaying it. But what if let's say I'm having one empty h1 element. So what I want to do is I want to put that content into this h1 element. This means I have to read the data from this p tag, and I have to write the data into h1 tag. Okay, so all of you understood what we need to do?
Yes.
Okay,
Yes, sir.
we need to read the data from P, and we need to write it into H1. So we need an object of this H1 also. So I'm assigning one ID like heading. So we have already read that data, and we have assigned that data into variable whose name is data, and we need to write this data into the h1. So we need an object like a dollar hash, and ID will be heading. And onto this thing, we have to call again the text function. Again, we need to call this text function, and inside this text function, you need to pass the data. So it will read the text from P1 and it will assign the text into the heading. So this is the jQuery's way to get the content or to change the content. So internally, this these functions, like I'm using this text to read the data and text to get the data. So these functions are using those dot inner HTML properties. Now choice is totally yours. Okay, so now you can see this is dummy para. So now the choice is totally yours if you want to go with jQuery or if you want to go with the normal JavaScript code. Okay, but if you are going to use the jQuery, then for all the operations, you will be having one easier way of doing the tasks. Okay, you don't have to call that much of functions manually by yourself. Okay, so is it clear to everyone?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay,
Sir, can I ask one question?
yes.
Sir, in line number 17, we got the value of the data. So can we access that the data value outside that function?
See, I'm
Yes,
going
yes.
to log this value, which is data. Now, what about your understanding about this data variable?
I think this lives only for that function only
Why?
because we are written in that function. So it will,
Exactly. We have declared this variable inside this anonymous function.
yes, yes. Because of that.
So it should become a local variable.
Okay. Yes.
Now, if I want to print that data, now suppose I'm refreshing it, then you can see
Not
we are
defined.
having an error. Data is not defined. Okay.
Thank you, sir. Yes.
Okay, so now let's see a few more things about this jQuery, that what are the things which we can perform. And we can also perform some animations with the help of jQuery. Let me show you how. First of all, let's have one heading which is above the button. Let me keep this file as it is and let's create one more file. And I'm writing this file as jQuery demo1.html. Okay, so let's first of all attach the jQuery file. So script and src would be the jQuery source file. This jQuery min.js. Okay, so now in this script tag, first of all, let's complete the basic structure of a jQuery like document.ready. And in this ready, we have to pass one anonymous callback function. So in this ready function, we are supposed to access or we are supposed to write our JavaScript logic. So what I want to do is I want to have one heading and I'm just displaying this as this is heading. And there is going to be one button. So input type is equal to button and its value will be like hide. Okay. So initially I'm having one button whose value is hide. So whenever a user is going to click this button, I'm going to hide this h1 element. Okay. So how we are going to do this? Let's try to understand. So let's give this button an ID like btn and let's give h1 an ID like heading. So on the click event of this button, we have to hide this hide. We have to hide this heading tag. So how we are going to do this? So first of all, get the object of that button by dollar hash btn, and on that we have to call this click function in order to handle its click event. Just pass a callback, and inside this callback we need to hide this button. So in order to hide this button, we need to have an object of that h1. So hash heading. So this entire syntax is going to provide an object of that h1, and on that object we have to call one function, that is hide. That's it. Okay. So uh, I have called this hide function, which is going to hide that h1 element. Now let me open that page for you, demo1.html. Okay. So this is heading, and now when I'm clicking this button, let me remove this console. Yeah. So I'm hitting this hide button, and you can say that that heading is being removed or hidden from our web page. But you can also make this effect look more smoother. Okay, how? You can pass some value of the time delay. Let's say I'm passing a value, let's say 500. So this 500 is representing what? If you want to see that what are the values which you can pass inside this hide function, so you can definitely search it on the Google. Like, I want to explore the jQuery hide function, not hover. I want to say the jQuery hide function. So you can see its definition, that what exactly this hide function will do. So this hide function hides the selected element, and you can pass the value of the time. Okay. So you can pass the value of time as a number in milliseconds. Okay. So if you are passing a value like 400, it will become the 400 milliseconds. Okay, so this means this whole animation will take 400 milliseconds to hide this heading. Let's say I'm passing the 400. So 400 means what? 400 milliseconds. So it will take this amount of milliseconds to hide that element.
0.4 seconds.
Yeah. So you can see this H1 element took only 400 milliseconds just to hide that heading. Okay. So instead of this 400, you can pass your own value if you want. Like I have passed 1000. So 1000 milliseconds means what?
1
1
second.
second.
1 second. Okay. So we are having this kind of functionality. Now, what if we want to show that specific element? So let's define one more input type equal to button. So one thing is input type equal to button, and value will be show. And let's say I'm naming ID as btn1, or you can give ID a little bit more readable, like hide btn. And for this, I'm naming ID as show BTN. So on which button click we are executing this? On the hide BTN click. So on the click event of the hide button, we have to do this kind of functionality. And in the same way, we have to handle the click event of the show BTN. How? So just after this hide BTN, I'm handling the click event of the show BTN. So just write hash show BTN, and on this just call this click function, and inside this click we have to pass a callback function, and again we need to show that specific heading element. So instead of calling this hide function, we will call that show function. So the object is going to be the same, that is heading, and call this show function. And inside this show function, you can also pass the value of the time. So I have passed the value 1000. Now let's refresh it. So when I'm clicking on this button, that is hide. So this heading is hiding, and again I'm clicking on this show. So again this heading is being arriving. But if we want to switch between these two functionalities upon the click of a single button, we can also do that. So input type will be again button, and let's say I'm naming this button as toggle. Okay, so I have written a value that is the toggle, and just write the ID as I'm writing the ID as toggle btn. So now we have to handle the click event of this toggle button. So just pass the ID as hash uh, toggle button, and on this object we need to call again this click function, and on this click, on its click, we have to get the object of that heading, and uh, instead of calling the hide and show function, we can call this toggle function. Okay, so this toggle function will switch between the hide and show, and also you can pass a value of the millisecond, so that how much time it will take to hide or show that element. So let's refresh it. We are having two buttons. So hide is going to only hide this button. Once the element is hidden, you are not able to hide that. Okay. And if you want to show that element, you need to click this button. And if you are clicking this show button, then nothing will happen again and again, because show's responsibility is only to display that element again. But if I'm clicking on this toggle, the element is being disappearing, is hiding, and again when I'm clicking this button, this element will appear. Okay, so this is the function of the toggle effect which you are getting in jQuery. So all of you understood?
Yes, sir.
Sir,
Yes, sir.
toggle consists only show and hide functionality.
Yes,
Yes.
it
Both
will
the
switch
names.
between the hide and show. Toggle means switching between the two states.
We can change the name after clicking the toggle, what we have done previously. That value of toggle button,
Yes,
like
you can
show,
change.
and after it, yes, hide will be
You
automatically
have to
changed
write
to.
your own logic then. Is it clear? You have to
Yes,
write
yes.
your own logic.
Yes, thank you.
Okay, so let's see some more effects in jQuery. So I will request you guys to explore some more things in depth about jQuery, like in your free time. Just explore that how we can uh, manipulate DOM using this jQuery, how we can change the style using jQuery. So I would like to request all of you guys to have your own exploration on this jQuery. Okay, because everything in any programming language is in depth. Okay, as we are not having that much of time that we can explore the jQuery for 2 3 days or to 5 or 6 days, so that's not possible. Okay, we will explore some basic required concepts for the jQuery, and you have to explore jQuery by yourself. Okay, so in this entire IT domain, that's what you have to do. Okay, there is no such thing of spoon feeding as of now. You guys are being mature. Okay, so you have to explore, you have to learn things, you have to build that habit in order to make your survival in IT industry. Okay, so this is a normal thing for any software engineer. As of now, if I talk about myself also, I I also take some time to study about the things. Let's say if there is 24 hours in a day, if I'm having, then from those 24 hours, I give at least 3 to 4 hours for my self study. As of now, I'm also studying, and this study will not going to end till my last breath of So you have to give your time to study things by yourself. In any organization you may go to work, so you may be assigned some new tasks, some new features to implement, and they are not going to think of that fact that if developer is aware of this feature or not. You have to study that feature, you have to explore that feature on the internet, and you have to implement that functionality. You have to build that habit in yourself. Okay. So now let's explore some more functionalities in this jQuery. Let's say I'm writing the ID as hash heading, and let's call one function that is fade in. Suppose if we want to hide any element, I would like to call this fade out function. And fade out effect, I want to take 1 second for it. And again, if I want to show this h1 element, if I want to show this element, I will call the function which is fade in. Okay, not the uppercase for n, it should be lowercase. Yeah. And again, instead of calling this fade in and fade out, we must get a function that is fade toggle. Then it will switch between the fade in and fade out. So fade out will hide the element. Fade in will show that element with a fade animation. Let me show you that how it is going to perform. Okay, so initially this is your heading, and I'm going to hide this. So you can see the fading animation, then fading effect was there. And now again, I'm showing that element. So you are having that fade effect. Now again, I'm clicking on this toggle. So you can see this toggle is working fine. Okay. So all of you understood this fade in, fade out, fade toggle.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
1 second. Okay. So if you want to achieve the same functionality in JavaScript, then trust me, you have to write lot much amount of code. Okay, so that effects are being already defined in the jQuery. You can use them. Okay, and you can define your own animations. So you can explore Google for that. That how we are going to define our own custom animations using jQuery. Okay. Okay, so let's do one thing. By using this jQuery knowledge, let's explore some more concept. Okay, so first of all, we will achieve that task with the help of JavaScript. Then, after implementing that same thing in JavaScript, we will implement the same thing in jQuery. Okay, so let me do one thing. Let's just explore our next concept. So I'm not saying that jQuery, we are done with jQuery. We have to implement one concept using JavaScript. Then after we will implement the same thing in jQuery. Okay, so that I can show you the simplicity level which we can achieve with the help of that jQuery. What are the all efforts which we are going to make in order to achieve that task in JavaScript, and how jQuery is going to simplify that. Okay, so now I'm creating one more txt file, and our next concept is Ajax. Again, very simple concept is there, that is Ajax. So ajax.html. So first of all, we will explore Ajax with the help of plain JavaScript, and after achieving that, we will have that same functionality using jQuery. So let me open this ajax.html. So have you guys heard about this uh, terminology Ajax?
Just heard that we have to
Not heard,
learn
only
about it.
seen. Only
Yes,
seen on
yes.
LinkedIn.
Not
This time only seen on LinkedIn.
Okay, so this Ajax is a JavaScript feature which is going to make your application the smart application, right? So the full form of Ajax is asynchronous yeah, asynchronous JavaScript, asynchronous JavaScript and XML. This is the full form of JavaScript. And again, by reading its full form, not everyone used to get its functionality, that what exactly will be the use of Ajax, that why we are going to use this Ajax, what is the purpose of using this Ajax. So since we have discussed that if you are working with website, then there is one thing which is client and one thing which is server. So the without the server, your client device is not going to have the dynamic data, because all the data will be stored onto that server. So in order to perform any functionality, so this client has to send a request on the server and server will respond to that client. We all know that kind of functionality, that a client sends a request on a server accept that request, and server used to process that request. Okay, so this is how your client and server are used to work in any web application. So what is the role of Ajax in our application? So first of all, we will understand that what uh, Ajax is designed for, is developed for. So basically, Ajax is a library, or you can say that Ajax is just a small tool using which you can send a request on the server and you can get the response from the server without interrupting the user operation. This means behind the scene, this Ajax will be executed. Okay, so behind the scene, your Ajax code will send a request on the server and it will read out the response which the server has responded with. Okay, so using Ajax, we can send a request we can send a request on a server we can send a request on a server and we can get the response from a server. Okay, so this is the main primary task of Ajax, is to send request on any server and to get the response from any server. Okay, since if you are sending a request on a server, then definitely you will get the response. Okay, so this is the main work of the Ajax, right? To send the request on a server. But what's special in Ajax? So this request and response mechanism will not affect the user interaction. This means if suppose user is performing some other operation, so we can use this Ajax to send a request without interrupting any user operation. This means without reloading the web page. Without reloading the web page, if we want to send a request on a server and if you want to get the response from it, then you are going to use this Ajax. And trust me, you have used this Ajax feature in any website. I can show you one example of that. Have you guys used Facebook on any web browser?
Yes, sir.
Yes,
Yes,
sir.
sir.
So when you log in onto that Facebook, you are able to see one timeline page is there. And on that timeline page, there is one search bar. Have you seen that search bar?
Yes, sir. Yes.
Yes, sir.
Is
Yes,
it
there
like
is a search bar. And in that search bar, you used to type the name of any person. Maybe he or she may be your friend. Have you done that?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Times.
So since when you start typing the name, let's say I have given an input that is A, what will happen?
Gives a suggestion.
Suggestions.
Exactly.
Suggestions. Okay.
So where that data is practically present? On client or server?
Server.
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 Server. So without reloading the page, your client application has sent a request on the server that please give us all the names which are starting from A, and server has responded with those names and your client has displayed those names. So whenever you are typing any text inside your search box, your client is going to display all the names. How that thing made possible? With the help of Ajax. So whenever you are having response from that server, your page is not reloading again and again. Okay, so when you write again a character like B, so your server will respond with all the names which are starting A, B, right? Which are having prefix like AB. So we are sending request on the server without reloading the web page. Okay, so using Ajax, we are just increasing the user experience, right? We are just enriching the user experience so that our application will become a smart application. Okay, so using this Ajax functionality, you can make your application work smartly without interrupting any user operation. What a user may be doing behind the scene, we can send a request and we can take the response from the server. Okay, so if we want to send a request on server without reloading the web page. Why I'm saying that without reloading the web page? Because by default, the nature of sending a request is like that. Whenever you send a request on a server, your web page by default takes a reload. Okay, your web page will take a reload, and after that, your web page will display the new content. So that's the default behavior of any web page. But if you want to send any request on the server without reloading the page, okay, without reloading the page, then Ajax will be our cup of tea. Okay, so this is the main functionality of Ajax. So where you have seen all of these functionalities, suppose when you are uploading any file, you are seeing the upload progress. Have you seen that kind of thing?
Yes, sir. Inform validations.
Yes, in form, no, form validation has nothing to do with the Ajax thing. Your form validation is pure the client operation.
No, not that, but yeah, sending that, uploading that file into any
Exactly.
application.
Yes. So whenever you are uploading any file, you guys are able to see the upload progress parallelly on your client device. So behind the scene, this Ajax is working. And you have also seen that kind of thing, let's say, in any registration form, let's say for any Facebook form or any Flipkart, Amazon form, if you are entering your phone number, and if that phone number is already existing, so at the same time they are responding that account with this phone number is already present, or this phone number already exists. Have you seen that thing?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay, so at the same moment when you have entered your phone number in that form, so your client is displaying that kind of message. How is that possible? Is it the server or is it the client who is checking that this phone number is already exist?
Server.
Exactly.
server.
Server is
But
checking, but
that's the server who is checking that is this phone number already present in a database or not, because all the data is being present on the server. So we have to check this thing at the server side, that if a phone number is already registered or not. So in order to send a request onto that server and to take a response from that server, this Ajax is going to work. Okay, so without reloading the page, you are able to see that this phone number is already registered. Okay, so that's the functionality of Ajax. So are you guys able to recognize these kind of functionality?
Yes.
So we
Yes.
can
Yes, sir.
see.
Okay, so these all the operations are carried out with the help of Ajax. One more thing is, uh, in any web application like Facebook, I can take example of Amazon or Flipkart also. Let's say,
YouTube.
yes, we can take example of YouTube also. Let me open one browser. Okay. Since we are having these kind of videos displayed on my screen. Okay. Now, if I'm going to click any video, now you can see the page is not being reloaded. Have you seen this? The page is not being reloaded, but we are able to see the new data. Yes or no?
Yes.
Page has not been reloaded. Now, since I'm searching some video, like suppose I'm searching for any movie, like Tare Jameen Par. So, are you able to see this kind of suggestions? So, is this data is present on my client or on the YouTube server?
Server.
Server.
Yes,
It
Server.
was server.
exactly. So behind the scene, this Ajax is working, right? So in order to send a request and to send a response on the client. Exactly. Yes, Abhijit, you are right. So without affecting any user, uh, and also you have seen some applications like I may name that application like Crick Buzz kind of application. Have you seen that?
Yes, sir.
Yes,
What
sir.
Yes, sir.
what these kind of applications are doing?
Automatic reload or refresh.
Exactly, they are loading the new score by themselves. They are
Synchronous
not
operation.
required to refresh that web page again and again. So behind the scene, which JavaScript feature they are using, this Ajax feature they are using. Okay, so now if you are having any weather application, so that weather application also is going to display some weather condition. Okay, so in that weather application, if something has changed on the server, it will be automatically reflected onto that client. And it is also due to that Ajax, because that Ajax will send a request behind the scene without the user intervention, and that Ajax will get a response from a server without reloading the entire page. Okay, so now let's see that how we are going to implement this Ajax. Let me give you a link also so that you can also so that you can have a better idea at what Ajax is actually trying to do. So I have pasted this link for you. You can
Please.
you can have a look into this article in your free time. Okay.
Sir, paste in chat box, please.
Yes, what?
Paste that link in chat box.
Yeah. I'm giving this link for a future reference. As of now, just try to understand what I'm telling you. Okay. So now, according to this article, just try to understand what exactly is Ajax. So Ajax stands for asynchronous JavaScript and XML. So Ajax is just a means of loading data from the server and selectively updating parts of a web page without reloading the whole page. Okay, so that's the functionality of the Ajax. So if you are using Ajax to send request onto the server, then not the complete page will take a reload. Okay, only the part of your web page will be reloaded. Okay, so this means you are making your page more user friendly. Okay, you are making your application as a smart application. You are enriching the user experience. Okay, so now let's see that how we are going to perform Ajax operation practically. So if you want to send any request on the server using Ajax, then you need one JavaScript predefined class whose name is XML HTTP request. Okay, if we want to send any request through your JavaScript code, so in order to send a request, you need this class, which is XML HTTP request. So, but we don't need the class only, we need its object, because practical implementation will be given by the object. Okay, so in order to send a request, okay, in order to send a request on any server using Ajax, we need to create the object of XML HTTP request class. So this XML HTTP request is a class. Okay, so in this class you are having lots of functions. Using those you can send request on the server. Using that function you can read the response from a server. Okay, so those all the functions are being defined inside this class whose name is XML HTTP request. So in step one, first of all, we have to create an object of this class whose name is XML HTTP request. Okay, we need to send the we need to create an object of this class in order to send a request. So let me create this object for you. Okay, so inside this ajax.html, I'm creating one script tag, and inside this script tag, I'm just writing this step one. Let me put a comment. Yeah, so step one is what? Just create an object of XML HTTP request class. So in JavaScript, how we are going to create an object of any class?
JSON.
$document.
We need to create an object of a class, not object of any HTML element. Object of a class.
New keyword.
Remember,
Using new keyword.
we have created an object of student or object of employee. So in that same way, we have to create an object of XML HTTP request class. So first of all, we will explore this Ajax functionality in plain JavaScript. Then we will have a look at the jQuery also. So new XML HTTP request will be an object of our XML HTTP request class, and you can assign it into any reference, like where obj is equal to this, or I can name the reference as XHR just to have an abbreviation of XML HTTP request. So this is the first step you have to follow. Okay, so step one will just will define a new object for XML HTTP request. Now, when we are done with the first operation, first step, we have to perform a second step. So what will be the second step? So in second step, we have to initialize the request. So what I'm saying by initialize the request, actually we need to we need to tell the Ajax that on which server we have to send the request, and what kind of request we are sending. Like we have to send a get request or a post request, or let's say we are sending put, delete, patch, what kind of request we are sending on the server. So in step 2, we have to specify. So in step 2, we have to specify that on which server we have to send the request, or and which kind of request we have to send. So the second step will consisting of what? We have to initialize the request. By initializing the request, what we are actually doing? So by initializing, the request, actually we will define, we will define what? We will define the URL of the server. Okay. So by initializing the request, we will define, we will define the URL of the server. So we have to define the URL of that server on which we have to send the request. Okay. And specify, and we have to specify the request method. Okay. So by initializing the request object, I'm just what trying to do is I'm just defining the URL, that on which URL we need to send the request and what kind of request we need to send. Okay. So how we are able to initialize any request? So in step 2, we have to just refer this XHR object, and on this XHR object, we have to call this open function. So this open function will initialize your request object. Okay. So this open function will initialize your request object. So you have to pass, you can see, so you have to pass some arguments. Like first of all, you have to pass the method of your request, and the second argument will contain the URL. If you want to send the get request, then just write your method as get, and in the second argument you have to mention the URL, on which URL you want to send the request. But we have to define one server for that. Okay. If you are sending any request on that server, then first of all you must be having one server. But as of now, we are not having our own server. So for that purpose, I will refer to some fake dummy servers. Okay. I will refer to some fake dummy servers on which you will send a request and they will send a response. So I'm just searching like fake dummy API. Okay, so I'm having this website which is JSON placeholder. In this website, you are able to find the multiple fake APIs. Let's say I'm using this users API. So this /users is the dummy API which is developed by this JSON placeholder website, which will respond with the user's dummy users data. Okay. So now you can see that I have sent a request on the server. So this is my URL on which we need to send a request, and we are getting this kind of response from the server. Okay. So this is a dummy fake server which is having this kind of URL, and we are having this kind of response from the server. So are you guys able to understand what I'm trying to do?
So please repeat that last step. What I've done.
I'm just saying that if you want to send a request on the server, then you must have to create a server, yes or no?
Yes, sir.
Then
We
my
don't have
question
that.
is, are we having our own server?
No, sir.
Then
No, sir.
what we have to do?
We have to refer a dummy server for sending
Exactly.
request and receiving response.
Exactly. So I'm using this dummy server. You can refer to any dummy server or any live server if you are having. I'm not having any my own defined server, then I'm sending a request onto this server only. And I have URL to send a request. What we need in order to send a request on this server?
Paste that URL.
Yes, we need that URL. So I'm having this URL and if I send a request onto this URL, then what we will get? We will get a response. Yes or no?
Yes, yes.
Data of the
Yes.
user.
Yes. So this is the response. So now just look at the response. What kind of response we are having? What is this?
JSON only.
Key value
JSON
pairs.
format.
Only a JSON or array of JSON?
Array of JSON.
Array of
Array
JSON.
of JSON.
Exactly. We are having array of JSON. So this dummy server is responding us with the data of lots of users. Okay, so a single user is being represented by the single object. So this complete object is representing one user. Okay, so a single user is going to have the ID, name, username, email, address, and that geo lat long kind of thing. Okay, so this is a dummy response which we are getting from this server. But for any real-time case, if you are building any application, then this response is going to be the same. Whenever you send a request on any server, you will be getting the same such kind of response. Okay, so all of you understood this point?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so for this demonstration purpose, this is going to be our URL. And what kind of a request we are sending onto this server? This is GET request. And if you want to send a POST request, then you have to specify the request method as POST. But as of now, I'm just sending a GET request. So in step 2, we have to initialize our request object, that what kind of request we are sending and on which URL we need to send the request. So all of you understood these 2 steps?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. Yes.
Now what about step 3? So in step 3, we will send the request. Okay, so in first step we have defined one object. Step 2, we have initialized our request object, and in step 3 we will send that request. So in order to send the request, you need to call the send function. That's it. First of all, just declare an object. Step 2, we have to initialize the object, and in step 3 we have to send the request. Now let's open the web page whose name is ajax.html. Okay, now let's go to the inspect area. Now you are not seeing any error. This means our Ajax code has is working very fine. And now in the network tab, let's say I'm refreshing this. So you can see, are you guys able to see one request from our application?
Yes.
Yes, sir.
Yes. So you can see this is the request which our application has sent on the user's dummy server. And what kind of status we are having from that server?
Request
This is
successful.
what? Yeah,
Successful.
200. So this means the server has responded us with a status 200, but we haven't received the response yet. Okay, so for that purpose we have to read the response from that server, and with the help of Ajax only we will be able to read the response. So now step 3, in step 3 what we have done. So in step 3 we have to send the request, and once when the request has been sent on the server, we have to read the response. Okay, and at last we have to read the response, and from which object you will ask for the response, to which object you will ask for the response.
XML HTTPS
Yes,
request.
using that same XHR object. So the same object which has sent the request, the same object is going to respond us. Okay, so now in order to read the response from the Ajax, what we need to do is just try to understand this. So this Ajax mechanism, so this Ajax maintains one state. Okay, so behind the scene, behind the this Ajax functionality, we are having one state that is being maintained by your Ajax, and that state is going to recognize the current state of your request. This means the current status of your request. So Ajax maintains one state just to have an idea, just to have an idea that what is the current state of the request. Okay, so this Ajax is going to maintain one state just to have an idea that what is the current state of the request. For example, if that request has been initialized or not, that if request has been sent on the server or not, is server is response from the server is ready or not. So how you are going to recognize the status or the state of your request? So if you want to recognize the state of your request, that what is exactly happening to our request, is our request initialized, that is our request has been sent on the server, has server responded or not, has a response successfully arrived on the client or not, how you are going to recognize that? Using that state,
Status
and
code.
that state is known as ready state. Okay, so Ajax is going to maintain one state which is known as ready state. So this ready state is used to recognize. So this ready state is used to recognize the current state of the request. If you want to check that if a request is initialized or not, then you have to read the value of ready state. If you want to check if your request has been sent on the server or not, then this ready state is going to tell you. And if you want to check if server has responded or not, then ready state will tell you. And if you want to check that response has successfully arrived onto the client device or not, then ready state is going to tell you. Okay, so by using this ready state, your browser or your JavaScript code will recognize that what is the current state of that request. If that request is initialized, or is that request has been sent on the server or not, the server has responded or not, if we are having response ready on the client or not. If you want to get the current state of your request, then you have to go with this ready state. Okay, so this ready state is a state which is being maintained by your Ajax. So simply saying that this ready state is just a property. Okay, so ready state is just a property. It is just like a variable. Okay, so ready state is just a property using which you can recognize the current state of your request. So this ready state will have some values which will change time to time. Okay, so what values we can expect from this ready state? One value is 0, one is 1, 2, 3, and 4. Okay, so these are the 5 values for this ready state, and by reading these values we will recognize that what is the current state of the request. So if the ready state, so you can see we are having one ready state, and these are the 5 values. Only these 5 values will be assigned to the ready state, and we are not requested, and we are not supposed to change the ready state value by our own. Okay, so the ready state will be updated by Ajax itself. Okay, we don't have to manipulate its value. So this ready state is being maintained and is being initialized by your browser only. Okay, so initially the ready state will be 0. So this means request is not initialized yet. If you are reading the ready state and if that ready state is giving you a value 0, then what we will recognize, that request is not initialized. Okay, this means we haven't called the open function yet. So is it clear to all of you?
Yes, yes.
Yes.
Pardon?
See, what's the purpose of having this ready state? Just read this point. Ready state is doing what?
Current state of our request.
To recognize the current state of
Yes.
request.
So what may
Check the
be
request.
the possible states of any request?
First stage is not initialized.
Initialize है कि नहीं?
Initialize in the process and successful.
Exactly, जब भी सर्वर पे रिक्वेस्ट जा रही है तो आपको अपने क्लाइंट एप्लीकेशन में चेक करना होगा कि रिक्वेस्ट का क्या करंट स्टेट है, क्या रिक्वेस्ट गई या रिक्वेस्ट नहीं गई, या रिस्पॉन्स आया कि रिस्पॉन्स नहीं आया। तो तुम अपने क्लाइंट एप्लीकेशन में किसका गला पकड़ोगे इस चीज के लिए?
Ready state.
Exactly. So we have to look for the ready state, that what exactly is the current value in the ready state. So by reading its value, we can recognize the current state of the request, if the request has been sent or not. अगर आपको पता लगाना है कि रिक्वेस्ट गई या नहीं गई, कैसे पता लगाएंगे?
By checking ready state.
Exactly, by checking the ready state. And क्या रेडी स्टेट की वैल्यू डेवलपर को चेंज करना होता है?
No.
No, developer is not supposed to change its value. Now whose responsibility is to change its value?
Server will send the state of that ready state.
So ready state will be
Status.
maintained by your browser. So your browser is going to change, or your client is going to change its value step by step. So what are the possible values for it? It will start from 0 and it will go up to 4. So if the value is 0, so it means what? Request is not initialized. Okay. And if the value is 1, so let's do one thing. As of now, we are familiar with this ready state functionality, that what ready state will do. So all of you understood why we need ready state?
Yes.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes, sir. Yes.
So let's do one thing. Let's conclude this session and we will resume with the ready state tomorrow. Okay. So just before it, just try to read the above article which I have written the URL. Okay. So you can read that article so that you can have a better understanding of this Ajax concept. Just before that, just try to implement jQuery and the DOM manipulation concept. Okay.
Yes, sir.
सर वो लास्ट वाला कोड एक बार शेयर कीजिए.
लास्ट वाला कौन सा?
वो स्टेप नंबर 434 ओनली स्क्रीन शेयर करो, स्क्रीनशॉट लेना.
या
मिस्त्री हर्षल.
हो सर, हो
विजुअल स्टूडियो.
आईडी वाला. हाँ, विजुअल स्टूडियो वाला. Okay, sir. Thank you.
Okay. Okay. So thank you guys.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you, sir.
Yes, sir.
Thank you, sir. Yes, sir.
All of you, please be at 1:30 for the lab. Okay.
Yes, welcome.
Okay.